So hello everyone, welcome to this another video of Scale Up India. I'm Abhishek Verma and you are watching the Hibernate series. So in today's video we are going to discuss about our third inheritance strategy, and that is going to be table per class inheritance strategy. Generally people also call it as table per concrete class strategy. So without wasting any more time, let's directly get started with our stuff. So as you remember, we were having this scenario of Pakistan where we were having a pet class and then we were having two child classes also, a domestic pet and a wild pet. Now pet class was having three common variables, and the domestic pet was having a birth date and the wild pet was having the birthplace. Then I mentioned you that in order to make this kind of strategy, what we were doing is that in Hibernate, first of all, we thought to go with the single table inheritance. Now, why we used this particular one in the starting? Because this is the by default strategy in Hibernate. So what it provides us is that our owner table is going to remain same, there is no issue, and we are using one-to-one mapping. But in the pet table, we were having some null columns. So here you see that as the name suggests, it's a single table. So irrespective of number of the child classes, you are just going to have one single table containing all the columns of the parent class as well as all the child classes. Yeah, and because of this reason, you will see there are going to be so many null values in your table. Since here in our case only two child classes are there with one each extra column, hence you see only few null values, but in the reality the number of null values is going to increase. Now we said that how we are going to differentiate between two with the help of this particular category, and as you remember, this category we were providing with the help of one more annotation. Yeah, so you can tell me in the comment what was that annotation, and the values we were using like domestic and wild, and this is again your choice what kind of values you can choose. Again, this is also configurable. So this was one. Now here the benefit was that since it is a single table, so you don't need to go for any kinds of joins or anything, but the disadvantage is that you are having so many null values. Then we said that instead of this single table, the another thing which we can do is we can go for this joined inheritance. So again, our owner table is again going to remain same without any change, and in the pet table you saw now it looks something like this. So all the common variables are going to exist in your main pet table, and then you are going to have your child table something like this. So again I'm trying to go with the terminology of child table here. So in the child tables you are having only these extra columns. ID is there, but as I mentioned you in the last video also, ID is going to be auto generated only in this pet table, and then here it is just going to be copy pasted just for the purpose of a foreign key, so that you can relate this domestic pet table with the main pet table. And then we found that okay, this is a good strategy. Why this is a better strategy? Because here we are not having any null columns as such, and neither we don't need any extra column like that category column. Another advantage was that since you are having three classes in terms of Java, so here you are having three tables in terms of database. So that was also a good strategy here. Yeah, but the point is we know that whenever now we are going to create some particular pet, so either it is going to be domestic or it is going to be wild. So if I look only to this particular table, I don't get the complete scenario. I need to take help of the pet table. Similarly, if I look only towards this wild table, again I don't get the complete scenario. I need to take help of the pet table. So I need to go for some kind of joins here. So that is one of the disadvantage of joint inheritance here. And hence comes up our third strategy, which we call as table per class inheritance. Now how this is going to be different? So let's see. So again, your owner table is going to remain same without any change, and your pet table will also look something like this. You will say that okay, this is the same pet table you were using in the joined inheritance. Again we are having only the common columns here like ID, name, gender and type. And I'll say yes, you are correct. But if you notice, I'm not providing any data here. So why is it so? The reason is because now in table per class, you are not going to have any data in your main pet table. So here also you are going to have two child tables, a domestic pet table and the wild pet table, and then they are going to look something like this. So you will see that in domestic pet table, you have all the columns which are available in the parent table as well as the extra date of birth column. And similarly in the wildpad table, you are having again all the columns plus the extra place of birth table. So advantage is that this time, if you want to get any idea about a domestic pet, you don't need to take help of the pet table. You can see everything here itself clearly. Similarly, if you want to see anything from the wild pet table, you again don't need to take help of the pet table. Everything is just available here. So again, this is simple. Now, why do we call it as table per class? Because here again, as I mentioned you, one more name for this is table per concrete class. So this table per class is the term which we use in terms of enum. So I'll show you. Otherwise, we call it as table per concrete class, because we know that now one of our concrete class is going to be domestic pet table. Another one is going to be the wild pet table, and hence only for those we are having these tables. Now you may say that, okay, since we are having these two tables, we don't need this pet table. But that is going to be wrong, because in order to still create a relation between all these things, you still need an empty pet table here, and an empty pet table will be created every time you are going to execute the code, or like whenever you are going to execute for the first time. So empty pet table will be created and data will be entered only in the child tables. One more thing to be noticed here is that earlier, if you remember, I mentioned you that in the joined table, so ID was used to generate in the main pet table, and here it was just copied. But now, since here we don't have any data, and ID is going to be directly generated in these child tables only. Yeah. So in order to take care of the exact numbering, so what we use here is we use something like this, pet table SEQ. So this is an extra table which we will be using here, and from here you can see what is going to be the next generated ID. Now if you remember that last time, where did you saw this kind of pet table SEQ or something? I guess you saw maybe like owner table SEQ. Then you can tell me in the comment section. Believe me or not, I have covered this in one of my previous videos also, where we have this kind of table SEQ thing with only one extra column. Yeah, I'll show in today's video also like how we are going to implement this, but before that you can tell me in the comment section. So this is how our table per class inheritance is going to look like, and now we are going to execute the code for this particular thing. So let's see. So as you can see we are in our Eclipse, and here this is our demo 15, which is again I have copied from the previous demo only. And again, believe me, the video is going to be simple because the only change is going to be in your pet entity class. So we'll first of all go to our pet entity class. Now if you remember, last time we mentioned here inheritance type joint. So the number one change is going to be that here I'll change it to be something like table per class. So this one I will be creating here, and as you can see why I'm again and again using the term concrete, because here also they are mentioning table per concrete entity class. So here I will be saying table per class, and believe me, that's the only change. Beside this, you don't need any change here. Your domestic pet is again going to look something like this. Since again a separate table will be created, so you need @entity. If you want a different name, so you can go for @table and just extend it. Same thing in your this particular one wild pet table also. So again each and every same thing. So no changes in your child tables and just a single change in your parent table, and hence you know why this video is going to be shorter again. So now let me just execute this. So I will be executing it now. So I have just made a single change, as you see. Yeah. So let's see whether it works or not. So okay, I can see there is an error here. Yeah. So we can see there is a particular error in this particular one, and what it says is that cannot use identity column generation with okay, let me just scroll it, with the union subclass mapping for this particular wild pet. So here, although it gives the name as wild pet, because I guess okay, it is just giving the name as wild pet because it took it as the first table. That's the only reason. Otherwise it can give the name as domestic pet also. But the important part here it says is that it is unable to generate the identity column. So now the issue is because of this identity here. So now you see that we don't have this ID column in the main pet table. Yeah, so we are having this ID column only in the child tables. Yes, now since it is available in the child pet tables, so you can't go with the identity here, because identity means it is just going to keep on increasing the number in the same table, but it needs to take care of both the tables. So let's say if your first table is domestic, so if your first pet is domestic, it will be adding ID1 in the domestic table. Then if your second pet table is something like a wild pet, then it will be adding the data in the wild pet. So ID2 will go there. Now how will it take care of this thing? So identity cannot take care of this. Yeah. So instead of this identity, what we will be doing is that here we will be going by the default auto strategy here. Yeah. And as you remember that for this auto strategy, since it is a by default one, so you don't even need to write. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just remove it. So we are going to remove something like this, because here we can't go for identity. So this is one of the disadvantage of your table per class strategy, that you can't go for the identity, and hence you need to go for your by default auto strategy. Now inside auto can go for anything like sequence or your table or anything else. Yeah. So we are not going to take care of that. So now let me just execute it again. So I have changed this generated value annotation also. So let me just execute, and on executing, now you see now it is working fine. So it has created a domestic pet table having all this as ID, gender, name, and all other columns you can see are available here. And then we are having this owner table also, we are having the pet table. So pet table is still there. Then we are having this pet table SCQ. So this sequence table got generated because of this auto generated sequence. So here by default it is going to go with the sequence strategy. So hence this table gets generated. And if you remember that when we covered the identity strategy of auto by default, so at that time also I explained you this particular sequence table. So I'm not going to cover it again. So this has been created. Now let me just go to my this particular data.sql. So again here you can see that you can execute this particular one. So what I'll just do is I'll copy it and I'll go here. So this you can see is available here. And before executing this, let me just show you how the things look like. So on a table is same, we haven't made any change. So in the pet table, it is an integer, ID is integer, primary key. Then we have gender, name, and type. Yeah. Then we have this domestic pet table. So here also we are having all the columns: ID, gender, name, type, and date of birth. Then we have this wild pet table. So ID, gender, so all the columns are there. Yeah. And we are having this pet table SCQ, which is just a big integer. So now what I will be doing is that I'll just execute this completely. So I'll select this, and now you can see we are having the data. So if I show you this pet table, so this pet table is going to remain empty. So whether you are going to execute the queries manually or you execute the query with the help of your code, your pet table will remain empty. Yeah. This is only for the decoration purpose here, so that as a placeholder it is going to behave. Yeah. Then your domestic pet table is going to look something like this. So each and every value is here: ID, gender, name, type, and date of birth. And your wild pet table is again here: ID, gender, name, type, and place of birth. So again this is a particular part here. And if you wish, so again I'm not going to execute each and every step. What I'll just do is I'll execute only this fifth step here. So this fifth one I can execute. So I'll say ID is again, let's say 5 only. So we can see we are able to get this particular kind of output in our code. Yeah. So again this one is working fine. Same way you can execute all other things also, and this way your table per class inheritance strategy is going to work. Now it is up to you which strategy you are going to use. You can go for a single table also, you can go for joined also, or if you wish you can go for this particular one also. But one thing which I still feel is that in this one here, whenever you are going to execute the query, this query is going to be little big, because here in this query it needs to take whether the data is in the pet table, the domestic pet table or the wild pet table. So the query is always going to be little big here. So out of these three strategies, my favorite one is joined inheritance here. because there I feel it is much more better, because here you see this extra table got created here as a placeholder and it is of no use, and here in this domestic pet table things are getting repeated, in the wild pet table things are getting repeated. So you may say that just by looking at a single table we can get all the data, but I feel that things are getting repeated here. So I don't like this strategy much, and my favorite one out of all these three is joined. Why I don't like single? Because of null values. Why I don't like this? Because of repetitions. And join I feel is something which is the best. So in all our upcoming videos we are going to go with the joint strategy only. And now the thing which you need to do is that if you like this video, then you just need to click on that thumbs up icon, then you need to click on the share button and share it with your friends, and also you need to click on the subscribe button and just keep on watching our videos, just keep on commenting something. Also there is a bonus video here. So this video I guess will be released on Wednesday. So on Friday we are going to release one more video, and that is also going to be related with your inheritance only. Yeah, so that's just a bonus video for all of you. So thanks everyone.